The world is upside down, with fear going round and round. To understand what is happening, let's take a look at the root of fear for our wonderful microbes, the foundation of life, bacteria and fungi. So let's start where every story starts, in the beginning, where nature flourishes and the whole world coexists as one. Following the symbiotic rules of nature, those of connectedness and cooperation. Then mankind starts to disconnect from nature, and the lesson of duality is learned the hard way. War and fear are omnipresent, and the exploration of how the body functions is being based on the Newton idea of the body being different parts put together in a skin-covered machine. Then Darwin comes and says that evolution is based on survival of the fittest and feeds the idea that humankind is the result of random luck, and again the war idea is being fed. But the most important root of fear and the foundation of known mainstream medicine lies around the end of the 19th century, where biologist Louis Pasteur and Dr. Antoine Béchamp were busy unraveling the great mystery: how do people get sick? Both scientists saw endless microbes in their petri dishes, and both had different explanations. Dr. Antoine Béchamp saw these microbes as a symbiosis. His theory was based on these microbes working together to rebalance our bodies. So he did not blame the microbes for the disease as his colleague Pasteur did. In fact, Louis Pasteur claimed that microbes attack us from outside and make us sick. By seeing microbes as external disease-causing organisms, he fed Darwin's fear-based war thinking. This theory makes money and became the base of the profit-oriented pharmaceutical industry Big Pharma. An industry that makes money from the chemical control of our natural biological recovery stages. Despite the fact that Louis Pasteur admitted before his death that he was wrong, this 150-year-old, outdated, fear-based theory is still at the basis of mainstream medical science. Then, when you also know that fear cripples our own healing processes, I think it makes sense to be open to new information. Ignorance should no longer be an excuse. Fortunately, several scientists have now been able to demonstrate that microbes are created by our own bodies and are controlled by our brains. Our microbes can change shape and even arise from our own blood. They help the body and are therefore absolutely no pathogens. This means they do not infect or attack our bodies. On the contrary, they help us like internal surgeons. They have the task to keep us alive. This is because the intelligence of nature is based on cooperation. Therefore, let's have a look at parasites and insects. Luckily, scientists are now finding out that the heavy metal overload in our body attracts certain parasites who transform these heavy metals. So with this symbiosis in mind, we should rethink when we take antibiotics or anti-whatever. Are you still in doubt? Let's have a look at nature and find ourselves in a wonderful forest, where trees coexist and even communicate. But the world under our feet is even more astonishing. The world of fungi is a network of intelligence. Everybody knows what happens when a tree or branch falls down. The microbes come to work and dissolve the wood into fertile soil. The circle of life is present wherever you look. Also in our body, where our microbes tend to work in a warm and moist environment, which we call infections. But if we were to understand that fever and edema is the perfect working environment for our internal surgeons, we could lay back and sit the period of repair out in calmness and ease. The language of our body tells us to rest, but most of the time we don't listen. Now we come to the smaller critters, the viruses, which do not belong to the species of microbes because they are not alive. They got the name virus, which means poison and death, but are in fact the opposite. It's just an RNA protein strand with the job of delivering information. Some scientists call these human tissue parts exosomes. They look the same as our frightful viruses and even have the same function. Could it be that they are the same? In that case, we could pull the root of fear for viruses also out of our paradigm. Especially because the undeniable proof of a virus causing disease is not delivered. The whole fear-based tactics is crumbling down with the corona pandemic as a catalyst for being able to seeing the truth. That a virus could be a software update for our body to cope with all the changes. If you are still hesitant to rethink your beliefs, here is another interesting insight. Based on the biological laws of nature, the Spanish flu after World War I was the result of the collective sigh of relief after years of fear and stress. The same with the so-called TBC outbreak after World War II. Why didn't people get sick during the war? Why does an innocent virus get the blame for polio while spraying the fields around us with DDT, a highly, now banned toxic poison? So many diseases are now known to have been caused by toxic environment and traumatic conflicts, and have nothing to do with a virus or microbe which attacks us from outside. The story that epidemic diseases were banned because of vaccines is also a fairy tale, because studies show that 90% of deaths went down before the introduction of vaccines. The nightmare of mandatory vaccines, not to mention the devastation of our natural and intelligent bodies, should come to an absolute standstill. Our only way out is to wake up and go back to the roots of nature and cooperation. We should be grateful for our internal and external natural environment and trust nature in its infinite intelligence. Thank you for pulling the root of fear for our loyal helpers, the microbes, by spreading the vibes of trust and cooperation.